Hello, I'm Evander. I've been training with Sensei Mung for 4 and some more odd years.
My name's Graham. I've been training with Maltz and Evander since February.
Alright, this is the part where we talk about theater of the mind. We're going to kind of do like a back and forth talk just a little bit. Alright, so during our flight camps, when Mung is telling me specifically, Evander, what are you going to be doing? Think about what you're going to be doing 30 minutes before the fight. I want you to think about how you're going to be feeling, what it's going to be like to be in the middle of that crowd when you're walking down the aisle with us, and now you're in the ring, you see you're staring your opponent down, that sort of thing, etc. What it's like to have the light splashing down and you can feel the heat, feel the coldness on your feet, those sorts of things. And what he's telling me to do is start working on how I'm playing out the theater of the mind. It's exactly how it sounds. You're building almost what is a movie in a theater, which is in your mind, and you're using your mental ability to be able to, as close as you can, replicate or recreate the event that you're going to be at. That way, it allows you to find a way or have an alternate way to be able to practice how you want to perform. So, in theater of the mind, they have like two ways that I remember is the part where you're watching, you're sitting down and you're just like you were in the theater, playing in your head, you're envisioning every aspect that's going to be part of the event. So in the context of MMA, you're in the back room, you're warming up, so you're envisioning what it's like to be in that back room with your coach, your sensei, with your training partner, and you're trying to remember all the things that you would use to get ready, and you're watching yourself, performing yourself, get ready to the things that you were practicing before. And then you're hearing the crowd screaming just outside the doors. They're going like, ooh, ah, ooh. You're hearing slamming. There's loud everything is going on the outside. And you're hearing this, and you're seeing this, and you're watching yourself perform the way that you want to, even though all these different stimuluses are coming at you. Because you experienced all those before, like when you're in the back of me.
Right.
So you already know, like, people are going like,
craziness.
So it's craziness all around, but you have to stay focused on you because that has nothing to do with you at that moment in time. You have to be where you need to be.
Is it a way to kind of stay comfortable?
Yeah. So they have this other saying, practice being uncomfortable. So theater of the mind is another way for you to practice being uncomfortable because you can't always replicate the event. I mean, either you go to events or whatever, and you're doing the whole process over again,
right.
And we don't always have that ability because you have to pay, you have to sign up, allow you to do the event. So what you do is theater of the mind. You use that as a resource to be able to experience that over and over and over again. So that way, when you actually do it, you have some comparison that you can be comfortable. And then you're also continuing with the watching part. You're envisioning yourself, or you're watching yourself after you're done warming up. You hear yourself calling your name, whatever you wrote down, that sort of thing. You envision yourself. You're watching yourself walk up the stairs, doing the routine that you've been practicing over and over again with your opponent in the whole 9 yards. And you're seeing all the things that you were watching your opponent do on video, if you have it, and that sort of thing. And you're watching it play out, and you're trying to figure out what your tendencies would be or what you would do for those sorts of things. And you want to say, okay, I know my opponent does these sorts of things. He moves in such a way. Like Armis, he likes to get the double underhook. How am I moving? How do I need to be moving? If I move this way, will he be able to pick me up? If I sag, like Sensei told me to do, it'll be a lot harder for me. You try to match that to be as successful as you can. Still envision what it's like to fail, that we have that reference, but you want to be working more on how you can be successful. And then you get to the part where you're doing the play. You're playing the part yourself. You run the whole thing over again, and you're trying to be, according to the book, meticulous with every detail. You're barefoot, you're in your sandals. You're practicing. You're trying to remember what it feels like to have the pressure of hitting the pads. You're pummeling and wrestling with me, getting yourself ready. You're starting to recreate the intensity, the sensation, that's the nervous energy is building up. And you're recreating all that mind so you can start to feel it physically. And then you're moving around, you're walking, you're doing everything that you were doing when you were watching yourself, except you're trying to do that successfully.
Okay, I just want to jump in something. What happened is I don't know if you remember this. I break Evander down by saying, I want you to visualize 30 minutes, warm up, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, and then 2 minutes as you're getting into the ring. I force him to visualize on a multi-level. In other words, 30 minutes, these are our warm-up routine. 15 minutes, these are your warm-up routine. 10 minutes, this is your warm-up routine. We're very precise. We think about everything. When we were watching, when I try to find fight tapes for Evander, I analyze everything. The guy's emotional energy, his tendency. I even count how long the guy does to take to do the move. So if he gets a double underhook without miss, I count it. Okay, it takes him about 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, and then he does the throw. In other words, Evander has about 2 Mississippi to counter. Right. And we are precise about these things. We don't just say he does a double underhook and here's my counter. Well, if it takes you 5 seconds to counter, you won't be able to counter him on the day of the fight, right? And so I tell Evander, hey, remember I always ask you, watch the height, and this is what he does. I'm very precise. Yeah. This is what he does. This is his tendency. It takes him about 2 seconds. You have 2 seconds to do this. This is why I count off reps, right? And this is why I'm so precise about these things. And for whatever reason, I think me reading all these books helped me with my coaching, and I think it's paying off. You know what I mean? And so on the day of your fight, you need to visualize yourself warming up 30 minutes. Your warm-up routine is going to be much different than 15 minutes as you're getting into the ring. 5 minutes as you're getting into the ring, and then 1 minute. And you're very lucky that you've been to several of our fights already. So you already have the actual experience. Because if you don't have the actual experience, and then you try to visualize it, you'll get it incorrect. So it's always good to have the actual experience, but then you also have to visualize, because then you make the thing more concrete. It's we'll talk about the Russian scientists and all these experiments they do. But anyways, go ahead, Evander, jump in.
Oh, geez, where was that? Oh yeah, so Mung, after he's doing all this research and he's telling you all these things, that way you have the ability to recreate this image, and you have the ability to recreate this theater by yourself. And when he's telling you towards the day of the fight, he's already giving you all the information. He's giving you the characters in your play. He's doing a lot of the homework for you.
Yes.
He's already hired the actor. He's already set the stage, and he's already put all these things in there for you, just in order to go there and practice. So when you're doing shadow boxing, it's the same thing. You're recreating the stage. You're recreating the stimulus, the stress. You're recreating how you play with your actor, and that sort of thing. And that's what theater of the mind is in a nutshell.
Yep. Oh, just a quick pointer. The theater of mind is very important. One concept of success, he said, is that you are the main actor, and everyone plays a supporting role.
Oh, yeah.
That is super important. So in other words, you own the stage. So when Evander gets into the ring, some fighters, I ask them to run around. And they're running around, they're stomping the stage. Muay Thai fighters will do the dance, and they will hit all 4 corners. They are basically like a dog marking their territory. Right? So you are the main character, and everyone else are supporting actor or actress. You see the difference? See how psychologically you're different? And that is so powerful, because now when I go to business meetings and shit like that, I implement that. And the minute I implement that, I am comfortable, I'm myself, I'm hyper creative, I don't care if I get the contract or not, I own it. They ask me to come in, I'm giving my expertise on design or whatever, I'm the main actor. You know what I mean? Right. And it takes confidence. I'm not saying it's going to come overnight, but these are strategies.
So you're
Isn't that cool?
building and setting the foundation that works best for you.
Go ahead, Evander. You jump in. Answer his question.
All right. So building and setting the foundation that works for you. I guess it's not necessarily it just works for you. It kind of works for a lot of people. But yeah, in a way, it is a foundation, because you're laying a framework that allows you to constantly practice and replicate that practice. So in a framework, yes, it is in that sense a framework, a foundation. Yeah.
See, what happened is this. Because what we do is so physical, we get so caught up on the physicality of it. But then, if you look at almost every ingenuity, every creation, it came from the mind. Right? And so when you fight, it's an expression of your mind through a physical manifestation. So in other words, if you can control that, then you have that extra 10% edge. Because on the day of the fight, that 10% of what's make it or break it. Both athletes lifting weight, hitting the pads, wrestling, doing jiu-jitsu, whatever. Now, you both will come out around 87, 90 percentile. Let's just say you're fighting your twin brother. But if you employ theater of the mind, where you have guys like me, where I study the guy you're fighting, I say, okay, on the day of the fight, you have 2 seconds when you're in this position to do this throw. You need to practice it so you get the physicality, and then you need to visualize yourself so that you have that mind-body connection. On the day of the fight, your chance of pulling that throw is going to be much higher than the guy who just does the physicality, right? So, Evander, why don't you hold this for a second?
Yeah, sure.
So we're almost done. So what happened is back in 1970, the Russians were one of the first to implement sport psychology, and they divided. And I think several universities also did this experiment, where they divided a bunch of basketball players into 2 groups, and one group just did I think it's called layup, like just practice shooting, like 5 hours a day or whatever, and then another group only did it half the amount of time. But then they also visualized it, okay? And then what happened was both groups had the same result. And in fact, the group that only practiced half the time and visualized, a lot of the players were actually outscoring and was better, right? So they were actually performing better than if they just practiced physically. Now, I'm not saying that if you don't exercise, I'm not saying if you've never done an armbar before, you just visualize it. I'm not saying that's going to work. You gotta couple it. You gotta couple the physicality with the mental, right? And what shocked me one time, there was one guy, Travis. He comes in, he's built like you, and he's fucking doing all these Brazilian jiu-jitsu moves and shit like that. And I go, what are you sandbagging me? Like, did you train somewhere else and you're lying to me? He goes, nope, I just play UFC, whatever the game that is, all day long. Oh, yeah. I'm like, what the fuck? I said, I don't play that game. So I'm thinking, I go, how realistic? He goes, it's very realistic. I'm like, really? So he's really good at that game. So what happens when I teach him an armbar, he's feeling the physicality for the first time. But mentally, he already knew how to set it up. It was amazing. He was learning moves so quick. You know Travis?
Yeah, I remember Travis.
It was freaking crazy. Like, I was going to put him in an MMA fight after 6 months or less. He was improving by leaps and bounds. Because for like 2 or 3 years, all he was playing was the UFC game.
Wow.
Right? And so it's like flight simulator. It's really expensive to get to a cockpit of a Boeing 747. So they have flight simulators, right? So you do the flight simulation, and then you fly the actual plane 50% of the time. And they find that it accomplishes almost the same result because you don't have access to that. And so what happens when I train Evander, I make him visualize, we run plays, and then we try to go to other gym, or we try to bring people in, and that's when he couples the physicality. You see what I'm saying? So we're like the basketball player who visualize 50% of the time, and then when someone comes in, we spar with them and wrestle with them, and we do the other 50% of the time. And it seems to work for us. But it just means we have to work really hard. We cannot drop the ball. We have to be very disciplined. We cannot waste our time. Whenever someone comes in, I hate it when people come in and say, yeah, I'm going to help Evander train. They're out of shape. They don't know how to do anything. They just sit around. It's like, fuck, don't even bother. You know what I mean? Like we're very serious. When we go to a gym and train, we like, okay, I need sparring partner for Evander. You guys are not going to get hurt. But these are the patterns I need you to run. Because on the day of the fight, these are the things that this partner is going to do. And unfortunately, I'm only 5'3", and I'm not very strong. I'm an old guy. So I need people to set up certain moves on Evander and practice those moves. So that way on the day of the fight, Evander will do these moves like a flight plan. You know what I mean? Like at any given time in the sky, there's like 10,000 planes flying anywhere, in a geographical area. And air flight controllers are the highest stressful job in the world. And they have flight plans for everything, right? And so same with MMA. When I train my guys, I have flight plans for everything. And whatever I don't know, I research it. I read books like crazy. And I'm not saying I have the perfect solution, but at least we have a flight plan. We're not just winging it, And for example, with Graham, I watch what he does, and then I see his tendency, and I say, hey, you're very close to getting this move. I see you try to pull it off. Let's fix it. Let's tweak it so that on the day of the fight, this move, instead of working 70% of the time, it's going to work 90% of the time. Because you need to do this, this, this. And now you notice with that leg sweep, because you know how to get that leg sweep properly, you notice your success rate is much higher now.
I know how to feel it.
Exactly. Notice you're feeling it now. So the other thing is this. The theater of mind talk about feeling. Like if Evander doesn't move right, he has that ebb and flow and his mind's happy. And Maxwell Maltz said that if you go to a racetrack, you look at the horse, and the horse has nervous energy in the sense that he's excited to perform. That's the horse you want to bet on. So we want our fighters to have that nervous energy where they're kind of scared, but at the same time excited to perform. They don't want to be nervous to the point where they don't want to fight. That's fucked up. So as a coach, you got to somehow teach that, where they're excited to perform, and the nervous energy is just the explosionness of creativeness. And that's something I work with Evander. Notice how our warm-up are fucking intense, right? We're trying to get Evander's heart rate up to 160 beats per minute. I'm hitting him, I'm slapping him, so that on the day of the fight, he's not getting hit for the first time, and then it takes him about 30 seconds to a minute before his mind goes, shit, I'm now in the fight. No, when he gets in the ring, his mind's already saying, I'm already in the fight. I'm ready to go. So in other words, the other fighter has about a minute and a half behind the 8 ball.
Right.
So Evander's already a minute and a half ahead, and the other fighter's trying to catch up to him. Right? And that concept I learned from Rickson Gracie in one of his videos. He said he gets his heart rate up to like a crazy high amount. That way when he gets in the cage, the other fighter's heart rate is like maybe 160 or whatever, like resting heart rate, and his heart rate's already elevated to a point where it's like ready to fight. And so when the other fighter fights him, he's already ahead of the curve. Yeah, you know what I mean? And so I'm going to read that book again. I haven't read it in like forever, but I'm going to read that book again. But if you train any competitive sport, and especially full contact sport like MMA, rugby, whatever, it is fucking scary. You got to read Theater of the Mind or something similar to that, because it will give you an edge, and it will give you a flight plan, and it will give you a kind of like a playbook. You know what I mean? Because if not, let's just say I didn't tell you about Theater of the Mind, and you don't have a good coach. What you would do is you and your buddy will be in the backyard, hitting each other, rolling around, pretending to do jiu-jitsu, and then on the day of the fight, it's like, fuck.
Yeah.
You know how...
I'll be put in uncomfortable positions and not know what to do. I'll just basically get my ass kicked.
Yeah, because you go to that venue, you don't know what to expect. You're like, fuck, I don't know what to expect, I don't know how to warm up, I don't know what kind of food to bring, I don't even know how to walk up the ramp.
Once you understand the situations, it gets to a point where you don't even have to think about it. Your body will just react to it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the connection.
Yeah.
You're trying to...
So what happened, Grab brought a good point. So let's just say you experience it, right? And so you go, okay, I experienced this before, I know it. No, we never leave it to chance. Let's just say you've been to 2 MMA shows, you were in the backstage, you with your team, and then when your time to fight, you're like, I know this, I've been to 2 of Evander's fight. I still would like you to visualize everything. That way it becomes you. Right? You cannot just rely on the physicality of experience. Just like the basketball players, they practice the layout, but then the sports psychologists made them visualize it too.
Right.
It's so important to couple that. Because if you don't couple that, then it is still possible to get the experience, but then you have to do 100% of it. Right?